I just Good afternoon, Louisiana, and welcome to Bayou Bets for Monday, July 18th, here on bet.NOLA.com. Jim Derry and Spencer the Guru Urquhart along with me here on this Monday, and it's SEC Media Day week. It's baseball's All-Star week, and of course, it's also the week that rookies at least start to report to NFL training camps. So although you might call it the slowest week in sports, and in some ways it is because it's really the only week that the big four sports are not going with baseball on its All-Star break, there's still enough going on for us to talk about, boys.
What are you talking about? It's NFC East preview week, baby. It's going to be fun. Beginning Dallas Cowboys tomorrow, the team that everybody loves to hate.
Yeah, I actually grew up a Cowboys fan. I don't know if y'all knew that about me. I'm not really – as an adult, I have not really been, but as a kid, I rooted hard for the Cowboys. So I still have a little spot in my heart for them.
It's funny you say that because the Saints were so bad when I was growing up. I mean, obviously I was a Saints fan. I loved Archie Manning, but I had to have a second team, so I had a chance at something. And I loved Roger Staubach, and I loved the Cowboys. And yes, I'm super old. Roger Staubach was the quarterback of the Cowboys when I was growing up, so I was about 9 or 10.
I think we're making Spencer sick because I don't think he was on that train.
Oh, no, I was definitely not. No, I always kind of liked I'd always try to go with an AFC team as my second team, but they generally wouldn't do well. It's usually I kind of like the Bengals. I like the Chad Ochocinco, but yeah, they a lot of talk, not much winning.
See, now I feel old because I was talking about talking about the Cowboys of Aikman and Irvin and Emmitt Smith. You were talking about the Cowboys of Staubach. And Spencer's talking
Drew
about
Pearson.
Being a kid
the
kid in like 2007 and stuff.
Well, so he has a good I mean, at least for me, I began to hate Dallas when Jerry Jones fired Tom Landry. I was done. So, and Spencer was probably you're not even born yet. I mean,
they haven't since I've been born. The Cowboys have only won like one playoff game.
Tom. They won a bunch of Super Bowls since then.
Which is crazy if you think about it that way. I mean, it's been a long time. So the NFC East this week, Jim's day-by-day win total videos. We had the NFC East last week, which we're going to recap later on in the show. I do want to spend most of today's show on the SEC. The media days are today. We'll also talk a little bit of Major League Baseball, Home Run Derby tonight, an All-Star game. We'll save that for the end of the show. But I want to spend most of the time on the SEC because the media days started today. They're not in Hoover this year for the first time in a long time. They're in Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame. And LSU, Ole Miss, and Missouri today who spoke. I think we're the three, and it's three teams each day through Thursday. Maybe a couple of those days have four, actually. And so every team will get its chance at the podium. We'll talk a lot of LSU. We'll talk a lot of SEC. I do want to remind you first, we're brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. You can get a sign-up bonus, all new users. Go to NOLA.com/Caesars. Your first bet is a $1,500 risk-free bet. So if you lose it, you get it again. I signed up for the Caesars Sportsbook app when I was in New Jersey last week, and they have their own kind of promos. Actually, I think it's the same promo going on. A few places have that promo code there. And so I was able to take advantage of that and made myself about $100 betting on sports.
You should have put $1,500 on Cam Smith.
I should have. Cam Smith in fact, I used one of my free bets on Xander. That didn't work out too well. I did have a little bit on Cam. I had $5 on Cam at 25-1. He closed at 22-1. So I made some money, not as much as you did, Jim.
Yeah, I had 25 on one side on him and 25 on another, and it was a pretty good weekend for me.
Yeah, the Aussie with a mullet ruling Scotland. As I said in Saturday's newsletter, not a bad punchline, just this year's British Open.
First mullet winner in a major since John Daly.
And now rumors out there that he's going to the Live Tour. So we'll see what happens. Anyway.
John Daly?
John Daly would go in a flash to the Live Tour. He would be gone yesterday if he had a chance.
No doubt.
No, we'll see about Cam. But that so ends the golf major season. There's still plenty more FedEx Cup playoffs coming down the pipe in a month or so, but the golf's four majors are over for the year. And so let's dig into some college football. SEC Media Days. We'll take a look at the odds up top. And, Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, most people watching the show probably don't like it very much. It looks like the same old story. It looks like Alabama. It looks like Georgia. And to pick a winner, you basically have to pick between those two teams. Now, we'll get to our picks later on and why Jim in particular thinks that may not be the case this year. But I want to look at this slide and look just a little bit further down the board. Is there anybody on this board, fellas, that you see, let's say 40-1 or above, who could maybe shock the world, get to Atlanta for the SEC championship game, and at least get you an opportunity to hedge on that bet?
40-1. I mean, LSU fans, of course, think LSU's a value at 50-1. I don't. If I had to take one or two, I like really Kentucky and Tennessee because they both play in the SEC East. If Georgia slips up, they could climb in there. Actually, Kentucky is interesting, to be honest. I mean, I'm not sure. I can't get a good gauge on them, but they really could. If they're better than they were last year, and they were pretty good, I mean, they certainly could shock the world. So Kentucky at 40-1 might not be a bad play. Other than that, I don't really see much on here. Nothing that I would play for sure.
Yeah, I actually am really like Tennessee at that price. I don't know that they're going to win it, but for a couple dollars, I think Tennessee, and believe me, I'm the first person to tell you that Tennessee is like, I come from Missouri, which was in the Big 12 when I was in school there, and Nebraska was the same way. They're in the top 25 every dang year, and they're disappointing every year. But I actually think this year's Tennessee team is going to be very good. We'll talk a little more about it, but I at 40-1, I think it's worth a little bit of a shot because I think they're clearly the second best team in the East. And as you said, Jim, if Georgia just slips up a little bit, they could find themselves in Atlanta. And yeah, it might be against Alabama. But if I'm holding a 40-1 ticket, I'm in a pretty good position at that point.
If you're holding a 40-1 ticket, I mean, what have you got to lose? I mean, then you can hedge on Alabama and actually get something out of it. Know you're going to get something. So, I mean, that's all you're really looking for is you're looking for value to get to a point to hedge. I mean, it's the same with golf. You think about it all the time. If you can get a decent play and then put yourself in a position to have a decent hedge, then you can't lose. And that's, as gamblers or people just having fun with this, that's really all you're looking for.
All right, Spencer, I think I know where you're going to go with this, but your team down the board there that you would place a couple dollars on.
For sure. Yeah, there's a couple that I could maybe see myself placing a couple dollars on. Out of the West, I kind of like Ole Miss at 40-1 with Lane Kiffin. I could see them maybe making some noise there. And then the team that I really like out of the East is Florida. There's a new culture over there with Coach Billy Napier coming over from Lafayette with my Raging Cajuns. He really, I know it's the Sun Belt, but he really turned that program around and made them, really good. So I'm thinking with Florida, I'm not saying they're going to bring them to the national championship in year one, but I definitely think that they turn around in a big way from last year's disastrous season from Florida standards, and that this year, I think they'll be in the mix. I think they'll win about 8 or 9 games and be right up there as far as being a contender on that East side.
I do like the Ole Miss pick, and we'll talk about the divisions here. We'll go to the East first, where you were just talking, Spencer, with Florida. They're down at 13-1 to win the East. I mean, I'll just be repeating myself here, but Tennessee, obviously, I think 40-1 to win the whole thing is maybe a better value, but 11-1 to win the East. The only thing stopping me from making them my East pick is the fact that they have to go to Athens this year. If they got Georgia and Knoxville, I would feel, of course, that price would probably be a little lower, but I would feel a lot better about them potentially knocking off Georgia. But as you'll see with Alabama too, I mean, we're talking heavy favorites. There is no value to be had on the favorites, Jim.
$2 on the doors to win 1,000. Do it. Do it.
By the way, that's how much worse Vandy is than every other SEC team. Missouri is the second worst team in the SEC.
You put $2 on, then you only
to win the East.
Yeah, you only win 100.
Vandy's 500-1.
$2 bet on Missouri get you $100. $2 bet on Vandy get you $1,000 if they were to win the AFC East. I mean the SEC East. See where I am?
Team, Jim,
where my mind is.
Yeah, your team, by the way, Jim. Your sleeper pick, Kentucky, does get Georgia at home, which may be why they're priced just a little bit lower.
Yeah,
so
and remember that game last year was a pretty good game. I mean, Georgia ended up pulling away a little bit at the end, but that was a really good game. Georgia didn't play very well in that game. I think they had a couple turnovers. I think they had a turnover on downs as well towards the end of that game. But Kentucky hung with them. And again, I'm not ready to say this. It's only July. My heart's in the NFL right now. That's where I'm spending most of my time preparing. But I think Kentucky at 9-1 is not a bad play. So, I mean, to win the SC East, I mean, and again, you talk about looking for teams that have a chance to put yourself in a place to hedge.
Georgia's putting $10 on Vandy. But the problem, Georgia, is that you're going to beat Georgia. Georgia's going to have to root against Georgia in that case. It's going to be a little
Vandy at Georgia on October 15th.
But listen, I've brought this up before. Kevin Malone from The Office. If someone gives you 5,000 to 1 odds on anything, you take it. And this is pretty close to that. I mean, you're just playing the lottery.
What kind of like, you'd be Caesars would be tweeting about you. We'd have you on our show. You'd be on a lot of other shows. I mean, it's worth $2 just for the publicity. $10 if you want. Go ahead.
Love you too, Georgia. And by the way, if you make that bet, send us the bet slip.
Yeah, we want to see that.
Email it to one of us. We'll write about it because $10 on Vandy to win the East, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good payoff.
There you go. $10 will get you on bet.NOLA.com, and I will mention you on the season premiere of the Datitude podcast this Friday.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Just drop a screenshot in the comments of that pick.
JDerry at theadvocate.com. Go for it.
Let's look at the SEC West here, where we don't have to worry about any 1,000 to 1 odds because there's no Vandy. It's pretty crazy to see Auburn at the bottom of this list. I wonder when the last time they were the long shot to win the West was, but they're at 75 to 1. And again, you look at Alabama, just overwhelming favorite, no value at all there.
Yeah, if I had to take a lottery ticket, I mean, shoot, Auburn, I'd feel better if I had been Vandy because I know, Vandy are obviously getting a lot more, but it is, at least Auburn's done it before. I know they're a wild card. Their coaching situation never seems to be stable, but shoot, 75 to 1, they always have talent there, and they always play Bama tough usually. So I feel like that could be worth a lottery ticket shot.
What do we think about LSU at 28 to 1? I mean, they've got talent. Brian Kelly's the new coach. I think the conventional wisdom is they're still a year away, and we're going to dig into their schedule here in a minute. But LSU 28 to 1, any value for you, Jim?
The problem is we don't really know what's going on at the quarterback position. You assume Miles Brennan's going to be the quarterback, but we really don't know. So there's just too many unknowns. Is there value? Sure. I mean, here's the thing about LSU. If you want to put a little money on them, the thing is you could put a little money on them and win a lot if they do happen to win. So, I mean, it's not a terrible bet. I probably won't put anything on it, but it's not a terrible bet. But I don't want to give away my sleeper pick, but I will say that, unlike you guys, I do not like Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin is, if anybody can piss off Nick Saban, it's Lane Kiffin. And he will have Alabama ready and raring to go when they play Ole Miss. And I could see maybe A&M or somebody else in the SEC like catching him on a bad week or something. Not that he likes Jimbo Fisher either. But he is not going to lose to Lane Kiffin, I can promise you.
You wouldn't think so, although I don't know that he's going to lose to Jimbo Fisher. He might be more up for that Texas A&M game.
Yeah, they had October 8th. Yeah, they had a little back and forth too, didn't they? But I don't know. LSU maybe is a decent bet. I don't know, but I like what Spencer said about Auburn. I mean, Auburn's never bad. I mean, even a bad Auburn team is decent. So I mean, they might come out of nowhere and surprise some people at 75 to 1 to win the SEC West. Who knows? Maybe it comes down to the Iron Bowl. That would be interesting.
Well, if they can get it that far, the Iron Bowl is never a blowout. Doesn't seem like.
Yeah.
Even last year, Auburn was 6-6, and Alabama was 3 or 4 overtimes to beat them.
4. It was 4 overtimes. It was what was it? It was like 7-7, and they needed a late score just to tie it up.
Yeah. No, in fact, I think they might have been down 7-3.
And TJ Finley's still limping from that game, I believe.
So I mean, is that the worst idea in the world at 75 to 1? I don't think Auburn's going to be very good, but they do have talent. If you look at past recruiting classes, they have the Jimmies and Joes in the locker room. It's just a matter of getting them to work together. And then I think quarterback's a huge question mark.
Jimmies don't like Joes. We just don't.
No?
We stay away from Joes.
All right,
Especially
let's dig into
Billy
LSU.
Joe's if you're a Saints fan, but that's a long story.
I was not able to fit the entire schedule on this slide. As you see, it's pretty crammed as it is. So I left off 2 games, home games against New Mexico on September the 24th and against UAB on November the 19th, which UAB for a mid-major is pretty salty. That's not your typical like November cupcake. Yeah, yes, LSU should win the game, but UAB is not. You're not going to beat them by 50 points ordinarily. So keep an eye on that one. But here are the other 10 games, and I leave the other 2 non-conference games. Florida State, as we've talked about, LSU is 3.5-point favorites. That game is at the Superdome on September the 4th on a Sunday night. And then they play Southern, which will be an emotional game for a lot of reasons here in Baton Rouge. And it'll be a hell of a lot of fun, but I might add. Might bring the family to that one just to see the bands play. And
I was going to say that you can leave it after halftime's over.
The pageantry will be fantastic at that game. Yeah, and you might, because on September the 10th, it'll still be about 92 degrees at kickoff. And then we have the conference slate. And you talk about, could somebody on a good week knock off Alabama? Well, LSU gets them at home. It's going to be a night game. It always is.
After a bye week.
Yeah. Of course, both teams usually schedule that game after a bye week. But what I look at when I see this is a really backloaded schedule. You look at those last 4. All 4 of those teams had really good teams last year. So if LSU is not, say, and of course the UAB game is in there too, but if they're not about 5-2 after their first 7 games, they're going to have a bad season, but by LSU standards.
Well, what I think, and it's the first thing that I noticed as well, but here's another thing that's a positive. If they gain a lot of confidence, if they beat Florida State and they go through and beat the teams they're supposed to beat and beat Tennessee and Ole Miss, because they'll probably be underdogs in those games, assuming crazy things don't happen before then. But, I mean, it's not out of the question at all that LSU's undefeated going to that Alabama game. It really isn't. And so if they get some confidence going into that part of the schedule with a bye week, who knows? I mean, that's a good thing to me that they don't play those. You don't want to play those 3 teams, in my opinion, early in the season, because you lose 2 or 3 of them, and then it's like, who cares? We're just playing for a bowl game and whatever. So, I mean, that it's realistically possible, and then obviously odds start dropping. So if you do want to put a bet on LSU, you do it before the Florida State game, because that's the only time you're going to get the value you get now.
It's interesting you say that. I mean, really, I think you start with trying to be 5-0 when Tennessee comes to town on October 8th.
Sure, of course.
Because, again, I think Tennessee's going to be good. Even if you don't, look, the first 5 games, Florida State, we know they're favored by 3.5 points. So you got to win that one first. Southern should be a win. You know, all the sideshow of the Battle of Baton Rouge for the first time in forever aside, it should be a win. New Mexico on September 24th should be a win. So that really only leaves Mississippi State, who you get at home, and Auburn on the road, the 2 probably worst teams in the West. So if you can just handle those 2 teams, you should be 5-0 when Tennessee comes calling on October the 8th, and then things get significantly more difficult.
And they'll be ranked. That happens.
Yeah, but Spencer, there will be excitement building if that happens, even through 5 games.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, they just got to take care of business against Mississippi State and Auburn, because we know Mississippi State's giving them trouble in recent years. Auburn's always a tough game for them, it seems. But, I mean, they've got the talent. I mean, they just got to execute and make just make the plays don't slip up. I mean, it's just those SEC games are always really challenging. But, yeah, I definitely see them getting off to a good start. And they're going to have to, because, like you said, that second half is really brutal.
Watched a little bit of Brian Kelly at Media Days this morning on the SEC Network, and nothing. Look, it's cliche central, and that's what Media Days are. He was pretty funny. He talked about how his accent is now a mix of Boston and Midwest and Southern, and he doesn't say family anymore. He says family. So he's poking fun at himself for the whole accent thing. And look, there were sort of these awkward moments after Brian Kelly was hired, and he used the fake Southern accent, and he was dancing in the TikTok video and stuff. LSU's been killing it on the recruiting trail. And so whatever he's doing is not having any negative effect on recruits. In fact, it seems to be having a positive effect. And I think LSU is caught up in the NIL game a little bit as well. And so I think the future's bright under Brian Kelly. I really do. I just don't know that we're going to see 10-2 or better this year.
When he says "way yet hot," then I'll start paying attention to what's going on with his dialect. Or I can't even try Spencer's going to have to give me the Cajun accent because I can't even try it. I'm terrible at it.
All right, Spencer. Spencer, can you say we're going to beat them bum Crimson Tide in your best Brian Kelly accent?
We're going to beat them bum Crimson Tide.
That's a good mix of country and Cajun right there. I like it. I feel like eating some boiled peanuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Because
we're
Brian
gonna
Kelly,
do it, y'all. We're going to do it. Yes,
much like myself, is a transplant, and so we're kind of mixing up all the different dialects here.
You're a real mix. You've been all over the place.
I've been all over the place. So that's sort of the story for LSU. They're about 6 weeks away from opening day. I think it was 6 weeks from yesterday. So we're at 41 days until LSU kicks off in the Caesar Superdome against Florida State. We'll talk a little more SEC on Thursday. We'll have the actual media poll on Thursday and who their preseason SEC team and everything. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that on At the Book at 4:00 on Thursday. But for now, let's wrap up our SEC discussion with we each picked who we think will be in the championship game, who will win the championship game, and also a surprise team and a win total lock. So let's get going. Jim's SEC picks. This is where your surprise comes in, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, Texas A&M is maybe it's not. This is not a lock. My only lock is at the bottom. Okay, you're looking for value.
When we want locks, we go to Vandy.
That's right. There's your lock. You know, people are calling me nuts already, but I'm looking for value here. I'm not going to play Alabama or Georgia anyway at basically even money, or Alabama's worse than even money. I'm not playing that. It makes no sense to play it. I mean, Alabama and Georgia are great teams. They're going to be great again this year. But you know as well as I do that there are crazy slip-ups every year in college football. I think Alabama probably has as good a chance to win the national championship as they do to win the SEC championship. There's more value there, in my opinion. So I like Texas A&M, and I like the number. Or am I nuts? Yes. Ask my wife. And then to win the East, there's no value. I would never play this. But there's no one else in the East I like at all except possibly Kentucky. I might put a couple bucks at plus 900. But really, I mean, if you're going to bet on it at all, then just suck it up and eat the juice, drink the juice, whatever you want to call it, 500. So my surprise team, obviously, is Texas A&M. And you talk about win total. This is no joke. Vandy over, you're getting great value at plus one. Vandy and great value don't usually go together, but plus 140 to win 3 games. I mean, their non-conference schedule is Hawaii, Elon, Northern Illinois, and Wake Forest is the toughest non-conference schedule, non-conference game they play. And I think they could sneak in an SEC win somewhere in there. So I think the Doors are going to win 4 games this year. That's going out on a limb. So I certainly like the 2.5 at plus 140.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind that at all, especially if you just look at those 3 games. They'll be favored against Hawaii and Elon. Northern Illinois might be close to kind of a pick. Northern Illinois won the MAC last year. So that's the one where if you can win that, they'll be underdogs in the other 9 games, but maybe not huge underdogs.
Coach Clark Lee, baby, second season at Vandy. They're going to be better. The Doors.
It'll be interesting. But hey, what I like about that is when you pick a win total, number one, you don't always need to be looking at the best teams. In fact, you probably shouldn't be. If you're betting the best teams, and I didn't pick this for mine, but if I was going to pick an under, it would have been Georgia under 11, because I just think they need to go 12-0 for you to hit that bet.
Right, you only need to lose 1 to push.
Yeah, and I think there's just bound to be a little bit of a hangover. They lost 15 NFL draft picks off of that team, so I like that. But if you're going to look at overs, look at the worst teams, because there's some value there. And then the other thing is look at the schedule, like Jim did. Hawaii, Elon, Northern Illinois. We don't think Vandy can win 3 games. And like you said, I mean, it's not like they're guaranteed to go 0-8 in the SEC. Missouri's not that good. South Carolina's not that good. There are chances there.
And Zach, if it was minus 140, I wouldn't play it. But I mean, at plus 140, you're getting a great value. I mean, nobody's going to look at that. I mean, the only people that are going to look at those are the true degenerates or the professional gamblers. I mean, those you got to go way down there to find that. And I mean, it's one of those things where I think it's worth finding.
All right, Spencer. Spencer and I are going to eat a little more chalk than Jim did. Go ahead, Spencer, your picks.
Yeah, I had to go chalk to win the East and West. I just don't see any real upsets happening here. Alabama with Bryce Young, I feel like still going to control that and probably run the table and win the SEC because Georgia, also they don't win the East. I think they'll come down somewhat, and I just don't see them being able to knock off Alabama 2 years in a row. Hopefully someone can knock off Alabama in the college football playoff. But we're just talking SEC here. Am I surprised, though? I like Florida, with Billy Napier. I talked about him earlier in the show. Another thing I'd like to bring up about him is that with the Raging Cajuns, their record in close games was incredible. They'd always seem to pull off the close games, and if he can carry over that magic into Florida, and yeah, Uncle Big Nigga. I mean, I'm not really. I mean, I'll be rooting for him somewhat because of Billy, but I'm not going to get a bunch of Florida gear because of that.
Oh, don't lie. That first that first Bayou Bets of September.
Where's my camera? There it is.
It'll be orange and blue back behind you.
Look, I like Billy Napier a lot. I think he's a good coach. I think he was a good hire. I think it's going to take them a year or two to build it up. Now, having said that, 7 wins it's not like it's impossible for them to go 8-4. So I don't mind that bet. But I do think they're a year or two away from kind of being back to where Florida was. So my SEC picks, I guess it depends on how you look at this. Jim looked at it as what would I actually bet? If it's what would I actually bet, I'm going to bet Tennessee to win the East at 11-1 and probably to win the SEC at 40-1, just for a couple dollars. If it's what I actually think is going to happen, again, Tennessee has to go to Athens. I don't see them winning that game. And if you don't win that game, then you need Georgia to lose twice somewhere and Tennessee to run the table. And they also play Alabama. So it just becomes very difficult to see them actually winning the East. I don't think they should be 11-1 necessarily, but I have to stick with Georgia there. And then my win total, I don't love Missouri. I'm a Missouri graduate. I'm typically pretty pessimistic on them. This number is just too low. It's a little bit like you with Vandy, Jim. If you look at Missouri's non-conference slate, they play Louisiana Tech, who's coming off a very rough year. They play Missouri State, I think, or an FCS team. Then they play Kansas State. That's their one tough game in non-conference. But if they can win that Kansas State game, they'll be 4-0 in non-conference. And then you're looking at just needing one SEC win to push. And they, as we know, they play Vandy at home. So that's one right there. They also get South Carolina. They get Auburn out of the West this year. I think 2-6 in the SEC is reasonable to expect. You get to 6 wins at -105. I'm going to take that.
Yeah, no bet. That's value. You're basically playing it for even money. I mean, as long as you're not laying too much juice there, I'm like, why not? I don't think that's a bad play either.
Yeah, I mean, I think worst case there you push. I think 5-7 is a possibility for them. Their other non-conference games, by the way, I said Louisiana Tech,
Kansas State. They were in a bowl game last year, weren't they?
They were, yep. And they should theoretically be better with a good recruiting class and a lot coming back. Questions at quarterback like a lot of other teams. But it's Louisiana Tech, K-State, Abilene Christian, and New Mexico State. So, I mean, look, if you can beat K-State, that's what it comes down to. Then that's 4 wins right there. And then you just need 1 from the SEC to push to win. So I like
Zach,
that a lot.
Just to reiterate, it kind of goes back to if you do your homework, and those are a lot of schools to go through. There are a lot of schools to go through. But I think where you're going to find your values are the teams that people don't expect to be any good because the books are trying to get you to bet on them. I mean, they're not going to get you to bet on Vanderbilt if they set it at 3.5. No matter, they can make it plus 250. Nobody's going to bet that. I mean, and then you're going to have a bunch of unders and all that. So they're trying to get you to bet. They're trying to balance things out, and nobody's going to bet these bottom dwellers unless they know something. And so do your homework. Go spend some time and look at some of these teams that only have their over-under totals only 3.5. There's going to be bargains down there.
Drop your SEC picks in the comments, and we'll post them here. But for now, I want to move on just to a couple of other things. Uncle Big Nick, we had an open recap for about 30 seconds. Didn't do too much on it. Cam Smith wins.
They just don't want to talk about it when I win money. That's all.
But
listen, and he won more than me.
Yeah, if he wants to crow about winning money, go ahead and we'll post that too. Cam Smith.
Take a look at his ticket.
Listen, You miss left at St. Andrews all day long. That's what
he got
Cam
it
Smith
at plus
does.
2,800.
That's fantastic. Okay. As we mentioned, it is NFC East week at bet.nola.com. Last week was AFC East week. So we'll take one final look at the AFC East odds before we dig into a new division. Bills are the odds on favorite here at minus 220, then followed by the Patriots and Dolphins. Jim, we talked about this on Thursday, but your takeaway as far as value on this board?
There's no value in the Bills. No matter how much you like them, you cannot bet minus 220, period. So really, to me, the only value in this board are the New England Patriots at plus 450, and the way their schedule lines up. Look, all the AFC East teams have a fairly tough schedule. It's definitely harder than last year where they all had easy schedules. And so I don't like the Dolphins. I don't like the way their opening begins. I think they're going to be in a tough position. That they could be 1-3, and they have another really tough stretch later on where I think they have to go on the road and they play like San Francisco and the Rams, and it's all together too. So I think the Patriots are the only value on this board, and never bet on the New York Jets.
The Jets, it's interesting, and I know Spencer likes Breece Hall a lot, the Jets rookie running back. I don't know how good they're going to be. I do know that Zach Wilson can score points. You thought I was going to say something else, didn't you?
I'm not going there.
I
love Robert Saleh too.
There have been sharp bettors on the Jets in this offseason, is what I was really going to say.
Well, I mean, and that has forced their price up, by the way. Their over-under win total is 5.5, and I think you got to play minus 175 to bet the over. There is certainly no value there. If you look at their schedule, I think they're going to be better, but just because they're going to be better doesn't mean their record's going to be better. It's a whole different schedule, a whole different ball game. So I think you will see them grow, and I think next year will be a better year. But then next year, you maybe get a value if they're 4-13 again, which is a good possibility. I think that's what they're going to be. Then next year, I think they have draft picks. They had a great draft, maybe better than any other team because of the picks they had. And so if you look at the Jets, I think next year you could get them you might be able to get them in a bargain because people will forget about them. They'll say, I bet on the Jets last year and they stunk. So next year is the year to get the Jets at a bargain. Meanwhile, to me, the Patriots at 8.5, I think they have a decent chance to win this division. I think 4.5 to 1 is a great number there. And I certainly love their over at 8.5. I think they finish with a winning record and go to the playoffs.
Spencer, one team we haven't talked about too much is the Dolphins, and they've been getting a lot of love in the offseason too. How do you feel about them?
Yeah, they sure have. I'm a little nervous about them, though, because I don't really trust Tua. Ever since he had that devastating hip injury, he hadn't really been the same as far as a passer. His numbers, though, are definitely going to go up. There's no denying it, because when you got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, even if you're not hitting them a lot deep, you just dump it off to them, and they'll take it 20, 30 yards sometimes. So, yeah, I mean, they'll definitely go up. Their offense will be more explosive. But with no more Brian Flores, their defense might not be quite as good. So from a fantasy perspective, Dolphins are definitely going to be on the rise. But from a win total perspective, I don't like them. I think they're going to end up lost in the shuffle there. They're going to be a disappointment, I think.
And Zach, going back to my point real quick before we move on, they start the season with New England, at Baltimore, Buffalo, at Cincinnati. They could easily be 0-4 there. And then from December 4th on, they play at San Francisco, at the Chargers, at Buffalo, home for Green Bay, at New England before they finish with the Jets. I mean, if they start 0-4, it's
good for
brutal.
fantasy because they'll be having to play catch up and a lot of those.
Yeah, I think there's value in the Dolphins under because a lot of people like them. I'd actually wait. I tell bettors not to wait because numbers don't get better. I think on unders, numbers may get better. People don't look at schedules when they bet more times than not. 90% of the people just think, the Dolphins, 8.5? Oh, they're easily going to have a winning season. They've got Tyreek Hill now. They're going to be way better. They don't look at the schedule. And to me, that is a brutal schedule. They could easily be 0-4, and then you basically just waiting to cash your under ticket at that point.
Yeah, I mean, even if they go 1-3, it's a tough road back to 9-8 from there. So
absolutely.
You are watching Bayou Bets on bet.nola.com. Zach, Jim, and Spencer with you. So this is how we're going to do it. We just talked AFC East now starting tomorrow. we'll have one team per day from the NFC East. And in the morning, Jim will drop his write-up on that win total plus a video with a Covers.com expert, usually Adam Chernoff.
I think it's going to be Adam all year.
It'll be Adam the whole time.
Yeah,
okay.
All summer, yeah.
So with Adam Chernoff from Covers.com, we've talked to him before, very sharp NFL bettor, and he will lend his insight. And then in the afternoon, Spencer will have his fantasy preview for that team. And so we're going to do that Tuesday through Friday, one division per week, and that will get us all the way to game week for week 1 of the NFL. So it's going to be a lot of fun. NFC East starting tomorrow with the Dallas Cowboys. Before we go today, one more thing to talk about. It is baseball's all-star break, and that means tonight from Chavez Ravine in Los Angeles is the Home Run Derby. And Pete Alonso bidding to become the first ever three-peat champion of the Home Run Derby. Odds are plus 190. Spencer, you picked that as one of your best bets. I'm a little – I don't know that you're getting enough value there. I mean, you're talking about 8 competitors here. There's a little bit of randomness to this event. Tell us why you like Alonso to win again.
I think he's gonna do it because he knows how to do it. He's got the experience. I know the field's really tough this year, but he says he's the best outside of Aaron Judge. I feel like he's the best slugger in the game right now, and Aaron Judge isn't in this field, so I feel like with that he should be able to get it done again. I mean, it's definitely tough with 7 other competitors. But let's be real. I mean, about Albert Pujols. I mean, I grew up a huge Albert Pujols fan. He was my guy, but it's basically 7 in the field. I mean, I don't see Pujols having much of a shot here. I hope he proves me wrong, but I don't see him really being a threat. I mean, his odds should be a lot longer than that.
Yeah, that's like betting on Tiger in a major.
Yeah,
that's like betting on Vandy to win the. Oh, sorry.
Oh boy.
Man, but Pete though, I just think he's got this thing mastered. I think his approach is perfect. He's got it down. I'm not a big Pete Alonso fan personally, so I hope I'm right for the best bets, but I mean, I'm not really going to be rooting for him, but I just, but taking my bias out, I feel like he's going to get it done. I mean, he's that good.
All right. Jim, what value do you see on this board?
There are 2 guys I like. One of them is a guy that I'm sure you like. I like Julio Rodriguez at 700. That's not a bad value play there. And to me, it's more often than not, these home run derbies are someone you might not expect, or maybe someone that comes out of the woodwork and just goes on a tear. So you look at guys that could go on a tear. I mean, certainly Schwarber could go on a tear, but I really like Soto. He's got the experience of playing this thing. He's a young guy, got a lot of power. I think there's value there at 550. And again, the fact that he's done this before lends credence there. I'm not going to bet on Pete Alonso. He's already won it twice. And if I were to bet on a home run derby, which I'm a degenerate, but I haven't gone that far into the hole yet, I would not bet on a guy that's already won it, which means Pete Alonso is out for me. Not that he can't win it. He should be the favorite for a reason.
By the way,
he's won back to back.
Producer Patrick says he likes Acuna. And by the way, Ronald Acuna, I don't mind him to win the Derby, although he does have to start with Alonso. So that makes it difficult. He's got that difficult path. But one place I like Acuna is to hit the longest home run, which is a prop you can bet on. Acuna hits some absolute tanks.
Why wouldn't they just put Pujols with Alonso and get it over with?
Well, he's with Schwarber because Schwarber has the most home runs and is the top seed. And so that's why I actually see some value in Schwarber at plus 330, because I feel like he's got a bye to the semifinals. If he's facing Pujols, he's going to get to the final 4. And at that point, plus 330 is pretty good odds. So I do like Schwarber. And then, yes, I do. I like Julio. I've already put there was still a plus 900 on Julio floating around this morning, so I took that. It was actually 10-1 a few days ago. It's now down to 7-1. So Julio's taken some money. And I will say this, his line for how many home runs he hits total, it started at 24.5. It's gone up to 26.5. He had a 4-minute Derby practice session the other day and hit 36 home runs. Now
you make me not like him, because that means that I'd have to bet with the public if I wanted to bet on that.
The typical home run derby round is 3 minutes. So he hit 36 in 4 minutes. So if you do the math there, that's 27 over 3 minutes. And that means he could hit it in the first round is over 24.5. I just feel like that line was way off. I don't know about 26.5 because then you basically need him to get to the second round in order to cash that bet. So anyway, interesting stuff. And I honestly think we'll talk about the All-Star game in a minute. The way baseball's All-Star game has trended, the home run derby is almost the centerpiece event anymore. I mean, it's sad but true.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I mean, I'm probably more looking forward to this than the All-Star game because it's just the All-Star game. It's like it's a lot of best people aren't even doing it. You know, like Verlander, Corbin Burns, Mike Trout, a bunch of the big stars are out. So it's like, yeah, it's just kind of getting kind of lame in that respect.
I'll be
yes, Nick. We're studying the home run derby. You're studying the 3M Open, man.
Yeah, he is. I guarantee.
Let's talk about which one's a bigger event.
I'll tell you, I'll be playing poker tonight, so it doesn't matter to me. It's Monday. I'm playing poker, and tomorrow night, after I finish all the NFC East stuff I got to do, I'll probably be folding laundry, and my wife and I will be watching Blue Bloods.
Oh, there you go. Well, All-Star game Tuesday night, the National League a slight favorite. The American League's won this thing 8 in a row. To your point, though, Spencer, here's the problem. The Stars don't play, and even the Stars who do play only play 3 or 4 innings. And by the time the game is decided in the 8th or 9th inning, you've got like the Pirates' David Bednar pitches to the Royals' Whit Merrifield, who's not an All-Star this year, but I couldn't think of anybody else. Like, you know, the Blue Jays Santiago Espinal against the Pirates' David Bednar with the game on the line, and you're like, what are we doing here? Like, make the game 7 innings or make the Stars play longer.
Wilson Contreras will be catching by the 8th. He's not even the best catcher on his own team, by the way.
I actually think that there is some value in the AL there, just because I think they're deeper. If you look at the All-Star rosters, I think they'll have better players in at the end of the game. But that's just a gut feeling more than it is hard-hitting analysis. So
I miss
this is right.
After the 4th inning, yeah. You know what I miss? I miss this year it counts. No, I don't. I'm just kidding. I don't really miss that. Don't we all?
Baseball's back on Thursday. Real baseball. We'll talk a little second half baseball on Thursday also, as well as some NFC East stuff, and we'll wrap up the SEC media days. Until then, guys, Spencer, a final thought?
Let's see. Final thought. I guess I'll talk about the NASCAR race yesterday. I hit on one of the Fast 5 picks I make every week. Christopher Bell got the win yesterday. I was happy about that. To see the field lately had been kind of dominated by the Chevrolet drivers, but it's good to see the Toyota drivers have a bounce back effort yesterday.
Jim Derry, final thought.
Oh, I'm excited to get Datitude back on the road. We have not done a Datitude since we had Mickey Loomis in our season finale at the end of June, and we are getting back into it. Season 2 begins on Friday. I know Adam Chernoff is going to be one of my guests. And Adam, as we talked about it, has been coming on and telling people whether he agrees with me, disagrees with me, or is remaining neutral. And it's been really cool to hear him, you know, if he likes something I have to say or doesn't like something I have to say, you know, come back with the point. And it's super interesting. But what he's going to talk about on Friday, he's going to talk about how to go about betting futures. And this will help people who want to bet some of these college football futures as well. The guy's brain is just some of these guys that going through, and since I got this job and met some of these experts and people who make a real living doing this stuff, it's so interesting to hear how they think. And that's what Adam's going to talk about on Friday. It's going to be how he thinks and how he approaches stuff in late July and August, and not so much what to bet. And that has helped me. Guys like Adam have helped me immensely. The way I think about things, and it's helped me with golf. It's helped me with football. It's helped me with every sport. So, and Andy Lack has been instrumental for me in golf. So these are the sorts of things we want to talk about on Datitude coming forward, not just because, I mean, look, once football starts, we're going to just be talking about the Saints for the most part and LSU and sprinkling some Pelicans. Now's the time we want to tell people, if they're interested in betting, how to do it.
Yeah, our job is, number one, to entertain you, but number two, it's also to make you a smarter, better, and to really give you as much information as we can as you go forward and try to have some fun with this. So that's our job. Tune into Jim's videos every day because they've been really good. Adam's just, like you said, the way his brain works is just a little bit different, but he makes you smarter.
Definitely.
He asks you questions that you've got to answer. So I like that about him. And by the way, my final thought, if you tune in Thursday for no other reason, Thursday, 4 p.m., it's our farewell show for our good friend Devin Jackson. Devin is moving on to greener pastures in this industry, and that sucks, quite frankly. But we get him for one more show on Thursday, and so come say goodbye to him with us 4 p.m. Thursday on these same social media channels. Until then, for Spencer the Guru and for Jim Derry, I'm Zach Ewing. This is Bayou Bets.